Welcome back to the third video in my series on bad officiating in the NCAA championship game. This video will focus on Rule 10.1.4c, which I consider to be the forgotten rule in the rulebook, because it happens more than it should and it is rarely whistled. Rule 10.1.4c states, the following acts constitute a foul when committed against a player with the ball. Continually jabbing an opponent by extending an arm or arms and placing a hand or forearm on the opponent. Let's take a look at our first example. We see North Carolina's Bryce Johnson receiving the pass and being guarded by Villanova's Ryan Arcidiacono. For now, Arcidiacono is in legal guarding position. Even now, Arcidiacono is still in legal guarding position. As a defender, you are entitled to every cubic inch of airspace next to the ball handler as long as none of the definitions in Rule 10 are violated. Before I roll to the next frame, I'd like to point out that the officiating is out of position. The best positioning for all three officials is to encapsulate the action. I have drawn on the court what the current officiating positioning looks like in comparison to what ideal positioning would look like. As you can see, the current positioning of the officials is not ideal. Another way to describe this situation is by using the ball line. If you draw a line from sideline to sideline that is parallel to either baseline, and the line intersects the positioning of the ball, at no point should all three officials be on the same side of this line. A third way to describe this bad positioning is to look at the perspective of the official with his back to the camera. It is his positioning that makes the crew's positioning violate the ideal standard. Not only that, his view of the on-ball action is being obstructed by action off the ball. In this frame, Arcidiacono has his right hand on the hip of Johnson, and view of this is obstructed by his own body. He is also reaching in on this play as his left hand makes direct contact with the forearm and elbow of the ball handler. Even if his right hand wasn't on the hip of the ball handler, or the view of it obstructed, a defender's contact of the ball handler's forearm or elbow is a foul by definition and should be called. Since we know his right hand is on the ball handler and he is probing at the ball with his left, this is a clear violation of Rule 10.1.4c and a foul should be called. Unfortunately, the official who has responsibility for that area of the floor is out of position and seems to think that leaning his head around the obstruction is a suitable remedy for being out of position. Unacceptable. The referee should instead be sprinting towards better positioning, not leaning towards it. In this frame and the next view, we see Arcidiacono place his left forearm on the hip of Johnson and begin probing at the ball with his right hand. By Rule 10.1.4c, this is a foul and should be called. By this frame, you may have noticed several details. First, Arcidiacono still has his forearm on the ball handler while swatting at the ball. I'll state it again, Rule 10.1.4c makes this a foul. Second, the official is still nonchalantly moving to get into position. Not only is this bad officiating, it is borderline lazy. Third, Arcidiacono's right hand is clearly visible through the vertical plane of Johnson. In doing so, when Johnson tries to pass the ball, Arcidiacono's right hand will contact the forearm of the passer, making the ball go straight up into the air. 9 out of 10 times that a ball goes straight up into the air when a defender is trying to dislodge the ball from the ball handler, it is because the defender committed a foul. In this instance, we know that Arcidiacono was reaching in when he contacted the forearm of the passer. Now let's look at this play in real speed. Look closely for the reach in by Arcidiacono and then the violation of Rule 10.1.4c.
With the first three of the night for the Nova Cats.
Say one thing, he can play for me any day of the week, that kid. There's certain kids that have that winner's ability, and he has that. Look at the play right there.
Let's look at another example of Rule 10.1.4c. Here we start with North Carolina's Jackson being guarded by Villanova's Arcidiacono. For now, Arcidiacono is in legal guarding position. Also take notice that the sideline official is in good position. The baseline official is sprinting to the ball side of the court, which is also good positioning. This sprint to the action is what the other official should have done in the previous example. In this frame, Arcidiacono has his left arm on the hip of Jackson and begins to swat at the ball with his right hand. Rule 10.1.4c states this to be a foul. Again, we can see that the left forearm has never left contact with Jackson. It is now located just below the word Carolina on Jackson's jersey. In the next few frames, watch as Arcidiacono's left forearm remains attached to Jackson while his right arm continues to jab and swat at the ball handler. Throughout all of these frames, Archie Diacono maintained a forearm attached to the ball handler while jabbing at the ball handler with his other hand. This is a word-for-word example of Rule 10-1-4C, and a foul should have been called. Let's take a look at this example in real-time speed.
Trap, the ball back into man-to-man. Look at Archie Diacono giving up a lot of size.
It is clear from the video that Rule 10-1-4C was violated, and a foul should have been called by either one of the two officials staring at the play. Now let's look at the results. Since I forgot to do this for the Rule 10-1-4B video, I have added its results onto this one. For the two hands on a ball handler rule, I have documented 2 missed fouls in the first half. Since Villanova was only whistled for 5 team fouls in the first half, if these 2 fouls were called, their team foul totals would have went up to 7, which would have put North Carolina in the 1-and-1 bonus. For the jab and contact rule, 10-1-4C, I have documented 2 missed fouls in the first half. Together with the missed calls of the 10-1-4B rule, Villanova would now have 9 team fouls in the first half, definitely placing North Carolina in the 1-and-1 bonus. Instead of trying to calculate how these missed fouls would have changed the outcome of the game and having to redo this calculation for each and every future video, I will save this important task for the very final video of the series. You may be thinking that none of this matters, that missed calls happen, and that their impact on any given play is minimal at best. You'd be wrong. Take the 4 missed fouls detailed in the summary. Of those 4 plays, 3 ended with North Carolina turnovers. That's a 75% rate of getting away with a foul, leading to a bad outcome for the victim of the missed foul. Yes, that may be a small sample size, but I'm going to show you how this happens. We're going to look at the very last play of the 10-1-4C rule through an X's and O's schematic. At this point in the play, number 1 Theo Pinson is passed to number 44 Justin Jackson in the corner, and Archie Diacono is next to him. North Carolina is running their standard freelance motion offense, and Villanova is running their pack line man-to-man defense with weak side post-fronting rotation. Pinson and number 11 Bryce Johnson are running cross-screen action, while number 2 Joel Berry is setting a down screen for reversal action. At the top of the play, Pinson is setting a screen on defender number 25 Mikal Bridges, but Bridges goes under the screen in order to pack the driving lanes in the defense. At the bottom of the play, Villanova is so worried about the post-entry feed, Josh Hart fails to realize that Johnson is moving across the lane to set a screen, and he ends up screening his own teammate. You know you are running excellent motion offense when the defense is screening itself. Now that Johnson has positioned himself to set the ball screen, he only has one thing to do. Read the action of his defender and Jackson's defender. When he sees his defender go to show on the screen and Jackson's defender chase over the top of the screen, all he has to do is slip the screen and he will be wide open for a pass to attack the rim. This is where the missed foul call has a negative impact on the play. Throughout the last 4 scenes, Jackson has had Archie Diacono fouling him by continually jabbing at the ball with a forearm attached to his side. As a result, Jackson has been unable to see what has been happening on the backside of the defense. This will prove paramount in turning a very bad situation for Villanova into a very good one, all because a defender was allowed to get away with a foul. Johnson is in position to screen and his defender is moved to show on the screen. From here he will read defender number 15 Archie Diacono go over the top of the screen, so all he has to do is slip the screen and run to open space in front of the basket. At this point in the play, Villanova's defensive position is disastrous. Why is it bad? First, on the ball you have 2 defenders, a shooting guard and a center. You never want your center this far from the basket, especially when his defensive assignment is half the distance to the basket. Second, on the weak side, you have defender number 3, Josh Hart, responsible for 2 offensive players, Pinson and Berry. Third, you have your weak side rotation, number 5, Phil Booth, caught in no man's land. He has dumped his assignment onto Hart and has to fully commit to his weak side rotation to front the post. These defensive rotations were Villanova's answers to North Carolina's post offense. These schemes only work when tight defensive pressure on the ball can deny vision of the backside rotations. This is why the jab and contact foul on this play, as well as the 2 hands foul on a ball handler on previous plays, should have been called. In essence, the referees are allowing Villanova to apply illegal defensive pressure on North Carolina's perimeter passers, and this illegal defensive pressure obstructs their court vision to make the right play. If Jackson sees the backside rotation, then his pass goes across court to Pinson, and with Villanova being this out of position, they get scored upon in one of many ways. First, Pinson can toss an alley-oop to Johnson, and with Booth directly under the basket, he either fouls Johnson to prevent the catch or allows Johnson to complete the dunk. Second, if number 3 Hart commits to Pinson from the cross-court pass, then he just rotates the pass to Berry in the corner. Since Hart is responsible for 2 players with no help, There is no way he can cover both Berry and Pinson, and this leaves Berry wide open for a corner three-pointer. Third, Berry dribbles in, and now he and Johnson have a 2 versus 1 on the baseline against Booth directly under the basket, which will most likely be a baseline alley-oop. Instead, the referees allow illegal defensive pressure on the ball, blocking Jackson's vision of the backside of the defense, resulting in a pass that gets intercepted by the weak side rotation. The referee's missed call accommodates Villanova's defensive game plan, and good officiating never favors either team's style of play in any game. Let's look at this play one more time in real speed to see how the missed foul assists Villanova's defensive strategy.
Short trap, the ball back into man-to-man. Look at Archidiakono giving up a lot of size, but he makes up for it with a lot of heart, guts, toughness. Now playing Jack.
10-1-4B and 10-1-4C are clearly written rules with very little room for gray area. When an action fits either of these descriptions, they should be called fouls by the referees. Again, one can only wonder why the officials did not make any of these calls on Villanova, especially considering that they called a 2-hands foul on North Carolina. That is all for now. Thanks for watching, and I hope you tune into my next video on the hand-checking foul.